I still view AI as kind of like a toddler. There are times you look at it and you're like, you're on your way to Harvard, man. But then 2 seconds later, you're screaming, don't put your finger in the socket. It's getting better, but it's still a toddler. So we'll get there.
Welcome to The Alternative Investor, the definitive show for investors seeking private alternative investments. Here's your host, Matt Johns.
Today, I had a great conversation with Jason Beutler, the co-founder and CEO of Robosource, an AI-powered process automation company that helps businesses use software and automation to help them do meaningful, impactful work through digital transformation. Now, Jason is a computer technologist at heart. He's been working in AI since the 90s, back when it was called Expert Systems. Following his passion, he founded and led multiple internet companies and even taught computer science as a university professor, both at Indiana Wesleyan and his alma mater, Taylor University. Now, Jason is a highly sought-out expert on AI and process automation. He speaks regularly on these topics. He even continues to inspire students through their apprenticeship program at Robosource. Now, in the interview, you'll hear how passionate he is about what he does. Jason believes that people want their jobs, days, and lives to matter, that people wake up each morning wanting to make a difference. Through his work, he hopes he's enabling that for them. Welcome to my conversation with Jason Beutler. You got to actually teach at your alma mater. You went back to Taylor and you were a professor there for a while. I think it was after your first entrepreneurial stint, right?
Yeah, so they brought me in as an adjunct to teach the software engineering courses. So my undergrad is in computer science, and then I had two tracks while I was there. One was three-dimensional graphics, and the other was artificial intelligence. And so after I did a bunch of work in the industry, they needed an adjunct professor. So I came back and taught their software engineering course, which is a lot of fun. I really enjoy teaching. Miss it sometimes because it's just really fun to engage the team or engage the class and new ways of thinking that they normally or have not been exposed to before. So it's actually part of the reason why early on in our business, we started something called EduSource, where we would bring juniors and seniors in college into our office for a summer, and we keep them around for a 2-year-long apprenticeship. So they would work with us full-time during the summer of their junior year, then 10 to 15 hours a week during their senior year, or I guess it was the end of their sophomore year, and then during their junior year, and then they would work for us again over the summer of their junior year. And that was one of our, we just love working with young people.
It's awesome.
Comes back to kind of our meaning and why we're in this is, we want people to do meaningful, impactful work. And some of that is helping people discover what they like doing. And so that's giving them an opportunity to come in and have opportunities that they never would have had otherwise. So.
And selfishly, it kept the energy alive in the office, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, technology moves really fast, and there's no one that can keep up with it quite like 18, 19, and 20-year-olds.
I bet.
So.
I bet. That's awesome. So, and Robosource is just, it's been around for what now? Probably 13 years? Is that about right?
I think officially 12, though. What happened is I went to Notre Dame and got an MBA. And when I graduated in May of 2009, I basically made a plan that I was going to go be independent again. And so January of 2010, I quit my prior job as a vice president and started this. But I didn't officially form the company until 2012.
And you've had a great ride so far. I'm sure you've seen a lot in that time. I mean, going from in that 13 year span, technology has changed dramatically. So yeah. I've got to ask, what of all the things that you're seeing right now, what's the craziest thing that you're seeing today?
The AI agents are pretty fun. If you've played with agents, the AI agent side at all, essentially what an agent does is it allows artificial intelligence to make a plan on how best to accomplish a goal that you give it. So it makes that plan, and then it sends that plan off to other agents, other AIs, to start to execute that plan on your behalf. And so that does some really crazy stuff. It gets very sophisticated. You're starting to see some of it in the public models and the way that they're putting it together, but some of the custom work that people have come out and put together, these agents that can solve really complicated things like quoting out insurance requests. So you come in for a property and casualty and you say, hey, I'd like to get a a quote for my auto insurance, and this agent will go out and do all this work, bring the data back, assimilate it, and then give you a well-formulated set of options. That's pretty shocking, and that's pretty cool. So,
it's wild. I mean, it's like you got a whole team working for you, all thinking, doing exactly what you tell it to do, and then executing 24/7, right?
Yep. That's actually, so we have a bunch of bots that we've built in our company, and so one of our email addresses is twin TWEN -T47. So it's twin T47 at robosource.us. And whenever we want work done, we email Twin and we ask it to do the job, and it'll go off and run it for us.
When you started Robosource, what would you have ever imagined that we would be right here? How has it changed over that span?
So when we started, which, a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start a business, they've got a vision and they know what they're going after. My vision was to not work for someone else. So,
which is a fair vision, right?
It's fair, but it's not like I sat down with there's a problem that I just have to go solve. I was like, you know what? I'm a smart guy. I know technology. Let's just not work for somebody else. And so I didn't really start with kind of like a direction I was going. It was more of just not to work for the man, I was still in my 20s. So what was I thinking? But anyways, I went out and started and mostly got into custom software development consulting. And so I did a lot of, my career, I kind of came up through the pharma and clinical trial space. And so I ended up doing a lot of consulting in that area. I always kind of saw AI coming just because, you get involved with predictive analytics and machine learning and things along those lines as you're working kind of in the depths of computer science. So you knew it was there. I never saw it actually being like a frontline tool that everybody on the planet would be talking about and using. At least not early on. So the fact that it's in 2016, 2017, where you started to see some of these open AI models appear, you're like, those are pretty cool. Someday those might be useful. I didn't expect it to turn as fast as it did. And now it's like, our company, we use it constantly. It's writing code on our behalf anymore. It's doing a lot of the kind of heavy lifting of the mundane work, not the hard thinking work, but the mundane work that's just monotonous. We have to do it because it's part of the job type of stuff.
It's kind of always been your focus, though, is kind of eliminating that mundane and trying to get focused on the human part, right?
Yeah, our mission as a company, we talk about we're here to help people do meaningful, impactful work. That's why we exist. I believe people wake up in the morning and they want their job to matter. They want to know that they're engaging a strategic conversation, that the work they put in is actually moving the company forward and that they were a part of that. And most people, I would say, would find that, entering data into spreadsheets and moving data between all the various different systems they have to use isn't necessarily meaningful work to them. And it isn't really kind of engaging that creative strategic thinking. So we want to take that off their plate, make it as streamlined as possible so they can do the things that actually move a business forward and actually grow a business. That's what we get passionate about.
And that's a little bit different way of thinking about AI. Most people think of the generative stuff. If I can create awesome videos, or I can, create a list of something, or, a script or something, people think of it more on the generative side. But really, when you get to the logic side, is that the right way of saying it? I don't even know if logic is the right way of saying it, but where it's kind of thinking in process terms and strategically, right?
Yeah, so I define it a little bit differently, because I think the generative AI side is a huge player, specifically in business operations. What the generative tool is doing, and where I kind of define this artificial intelligence, is the ability to goal seek is sort of a new breakthrough that has come about as a result of this. Like why do people get all excited when you say, hey, write a haiku about puppies? And it spits out a haiku about puppies. And you're like, woohoo, I'm so why do people like computer scientists get thrilled about that? Well, it's because you're able to say haiku, and haiku means something to the generative tool. It actually is a set of complicated rules. Like you got to have 3 lines and a certain number of syllables on each line. And so you gave it a set of rules, and then you gave it a goal, puppies. So apply these rules to this goal and you figure out how to get there. Well, that's pretty cool. Like now imagine instead of it being haiku and puppies, it was underwrite this mortgage. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty cool. And so for AI to be able to kind of goal seek and predict how to go forward and how to accomplish the goal that you're giving it, that's really powerful. And that's what I get excited about. So everyone's using generative AI to write their emails and all the other stuff. But to me, that's kind of a meaningless parlor trick. What they're missing is that underlying the hood, they've got a tool that can literally plan out how to take a set of rules and apply it towards the goal they're trying to get done.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That's what we should be using it for. And that's what we're trying to help people and engage their let their business engage AI in that way.
It is hard for us lay folks who aren't, computer scientists like yourself. It's hard for us to imagine all the processes that it takes to go from haiku to puppies, and then to create what we end up with in less than a second, right? Yeah. So, but that's awesome. But AI, so that's a term that gets thrown around. I still don't know if I've ever heard an actual definition. Is there an actual definition for it, or is there something? How do you define it, if not?
Yeah, so I do define it more as the goal-seeking algorithms and kind of the goal-seeking outcome. There's a lot around it. I mean, you've got, machine learning, neural networks, deep learning. They're all kind of doing math, and they're doing math essentially to help you predict or to goal-seek out kind of the goal that you're after. It all gets kind of heady and mathematical and academic. But for me, artificial intelligence are tools that are helping me accomplish my goals in a way that's actually effective in the outcome. So that's where I like to kind of focus in on with that. The generative AI tools are getting all the hype right now, and built on top of the large language models. I actually think those are kind of a little bit limited, and we're going to see a move away from those here shortly. Just because the way that they function and the way they're put together, I think that there are other mechanisms and other forms of AI that are going to start coming alongside of it that are going to show that it actually exceeds what the generative pieces are doing. But it's going to be interesting to see. So.
It already is. It's like every day you open up your feed in X, and all of a sudden there are 100 new things that people have figured out with AI or something else. But are there now? Yes. Okay, this may be a little bit random question, but are there any old faithful tools that you always keep coming back to? I'm just email or so. But are there any old faithful tools for your processes and the way that you're thinking about that you keep coming back to?
Yes, I do a lot of hand-drawn diagrams. Like I wish I had it in here with me. I am like a pencil connoisseur, so I have like old school pencils with a sharpener. And I literally sharpen it up and I draw on paper a lot of my process diagrams of how business process works. So if we're to sit down and talk about your business process, I will draw it out on paper. And that's where I start from. Now, I'll take a picture of it, load it into AI, and get it converted into my
there
own
you
thing.
go. Yeah.
But that's my go-to. I still draw everything by hand. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're very focused on the workplace. You mentioned work processes there. How do you say AI right now? I mean, obviously we're experiencing how it changes the workplace, but you're seeing it from a little bit different perspective because you're very focused on the process side of it. How do you see AI changing the workplace as we know it today?
Yeah, so AI is establishing where I think AI shines is in two areas. It's really good at extracting information from what we call unstructured data. Emails, Word documents, PDFs, Excel files, document places where your data isn't just sitting in a database somewhere where you can just pull it out really fast. AI is actually really good at understanding that context and letting you pull information out of there pretty effectively. That's a big deal because think about the amount of data you have in your business that is not structured in a CRM or a ERP system, but is just sitting in your inbox. There's a lot there. So AI is really good at pulling that data out. And so what that allows us to do when we start looking at business processes is a business process that used to be 100% manual because it was the only way you could get the data is now suddenly automatable. And you now suddenly can do things that you couldn't do before because you can actually understand the context of the information as it's coming from one email to another. I now can actually do something with it. So we just opened up a whole bunch of opportunities to automate in places that you never could before. So what used to be kind of an off limits, we're never going to touch that process because it's too manual. now is actually pretty available and is really going to free up people to do the stuff that's important and strategic.
Now, what do you mean when you say more manual, when you're talking about those specific things that you're looking at? I'm imagining like background apps and things that are going on when my computer's running and I don't even realize it. What are you referring to about being manual?
Yeah. So if you're like, you have a process, this happens all the time, right? Customer service process. You're sitting and what do? Well, you set up an inbox and somebody's got to manually watch that inbox. And when the customer service sends in an email, you go, oh, yeah, I'll respond to that. And so you might have a team, one or two people that go, oh, manually hit reply, answer their question, hit send. Well, we used to have to do that because we couldn't understand the context of the question. We had no mechanism to extract data from there in a way that we could actually comprehend what question was being asked. We had no way of looking up essentially who the customer was to know what was going on. Well, now we have AI. So AI comes in and I create a bot that sits and watches that inbox for you. Every time an email comes in, it triggers the bot who goes, extract from this email the intent of the conversation, what's going on, who it came from, go look up using AI. Now go look up in my CRM whether or not they're a customer of mine. Oh, they are. Okay, now take the data that you want, go to my knowledge base, ask it to answer this question for me. Oh, it brought back a well-defined response. Record it in my CRM so that I know that the AI did it, and now send an email back to the customer.
And the AI will send the email back too.
And the AI sends the email back. And so now the customer is able to send in a question and get a response in less than a minute, answering that question. And now suddenly the customer service model that used to be heavily manual is now starting to get a little more personal and is able to be a little more responsive to the customer so that they're actually getting the kind of information they want.
Is that a little bit more elaborate version of what I see maybe the chat bots when I'm going to ask for help on a website?
Yeah, it's basically what's going on. And that's a product that what I just described is a product that we build and that we use. So.
But it's so practical because think about the time that saves and the value that provides to the customer too. So it really is a great win-win in that regard.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, have you heard the term? Oh, go ahead.
I would say what used to be like a customer service agent for every 100, 150 customers. Now maybe you could handle 200, 250 because a lot of the mundane work is being taken off the list. And that's only the complicated ones that show up on the customer services desk.
So what does this do with the workforce then? If the workforce is focused on building these automations and eliminating the need for that human touch quite as often, what does that do for the workforce itself? Are we minimizing it? Are we minimizing the need for the human person?
No, because while AI is smart and AI is doing a lot of, it's able to kind of read that context and respond on your behalf. The human is still a human and people still know. How many emails do you get where you're like, well, that was obviously written by AI? I mean, I can get 10, 15 a day. Like it's not hard to tell, right? There are obvious signs in every email that tell that show you whether or not it was written by AI or not. So if we can tell, then my trust goes way down. So in our product, when an email is sent back, we straight tell you, hey, this is an automated bot. like we did the best we could for you. If this isn't good enough, just tell me and we'll hit a human involved. Because that builds trust. So you still need that element of trust, and you still have the complicated questions that need to be dealt with. Did you see the article? I think it came out over the weekend about Apple's research that they did on artificial intelligence.
No, tell me.
And so they were looking into artificial general intelligence, AGI, and whether or not we were how close to that we were getting. And all these models are coming out and saying how they're just blowing all these metrics and how smart they are. So Apple created a whole new test that basically they assumed, their postulate was that a lot of the intelligences comes about as a result of the pattern matching capabilities of artificial intelligence. And that's why it's so good. And so in all the tests they have, it's basically following and saying, can you find these patterns and execute them? And they're doing that really well. So they created a bunch of tests that basically were outside of patterns and asked the AI to help solve it. You know what happened? The AI didn't know what to do. It stopped. It got confused. It didn't have patterns to fall back on. So even when they said, here's the step-by-step on how you go about solving this problem, it didn't have the pattern, so it ended up not doing the work at all. And just said, this is beyond me. So even though we're seeing like indications that we're getting close to AGI, we're still miles away from it. And we're seeing it kind of replicate pattern match and pattern thinking and allow what humans are doing. But at the same time, it's also, when you give it brand new problems it's never seen before, it's not able to be creative enough to figure out that solution. So humans are still going to be involved, because at the end of the day, I just believe in the human creativity, and you give humans problems and we figure out how to solve them. And yeah, once we get a pattern and we've done it effectively, sure, AI can mimic that pattern. But when it comes right down to it, it's ingenuity and creativity that make things that make us human. So I still think that's going to be around.
So tell me more about AGI though. So this next phase of AI, what's it going to do, or what is it projected to do? How close are we?
I don't think we're super close, though. I think it does a really good job of making you feel like it's close. But at the end of the day, it's doing it is pattern matching, right? So it's finding patterns, and the other side of it, especially with generative AI, a lot of the way the generative AI algorithms are tweaked, kind of one way to talk about it is to say its goal is to make you happy. So it's trying to figure out the answer that you want and make sure that it's providing that to you. And so it does a really good job of kind of mimicking how a human would interact with you if it's trying to make you happy. And so we see, like, if you say, hey, I want you to finish this test and I want you to get 100% on it, it's going to figure out how to make you happy. It's going to do that work for you. So it still does it does a good job of mimicking and following patterns and seeing things that, we wouldn't see as humans, because we have finite attention to detail. The computer doesn't. So it's going to see all those patterns. And that's part of its value, is that it can see those patterns and reply for you quickly, but it isn't quite doing the same thing as a human does yet. And I don't think we're there. I still think we're quite a ways off. I think the media hype cycle will talk a lot about it. And sure, there are times when I look at it and I'm like, wow, you're brilliant. But as I described to a lot of my clients, I still view AI as kind of like a toddler. Again, there are times you look at it and you're like, you're on your way to Harvard, man. You just manipulated me for that cookie in the way that no rational human ever could have done before. You're brilliant. But then 2 seconds later, you're screaming, don't put your finger in the socket, and it's like common sense things it just kind of doesn't get. So it's getting better, but it's still a toddler. And so we'll get there.
Maybe I'm not getting it, but if I was understanding AGI, it takes typical LLM models and those kinds of AI a step further, where it's doing more like cognitive type thinking. Is that the correct way of saying it, or how would you define AGI as that next step?
Yeah, so it's general intelligence, meaning basically the same way you could interact with a human and go, oh, that person's smart. You would do the same thing with AI, and it would be able to generally understand what's going on around itself, and be able to comprehend its environment and what's happening, and be able to respond to you in a way that is contextually relevant, not just based upon the text you've given it, but also the audio and the visual context clues that it has around itself in order to make a better decision. And we're getting closer on that. I don't want to say that we're not advancing that way, but it still feels to me like we're a little ways off, just in terms of the logic and reasoning ability.
But is that different from the like deep search option that you can get in, say, ChatGPT, where it'll go and scour the web for further information and answers?
Yeah. So some of it comes down to how you describe intelligence, right? Because historically, a lot of times we've described intelligence as the ability to recall information. So you go back to 15th century and you go to Oxford and they cram your head full of all sorts of information, and you're intelligent if you can regurgitate it. Because that means that you have context to be able to inform your opinion. So when you speak, you now have context to inform that. Well, during the 90s, when the internet started to come about, and then during the early 2000s, when all of a sudden we have these phones, that stopped mattering. And it was no longer, can you recall information? It was how quickly can you get it and how quickly can you apply it? So DeepSeek and things like that are essentially recalling information really quickly, and it's able to bring it up. And so it's got a form of intelligence, but how does it apply it to solve the problems or to answer the questions or to help give context around what's happening to you? That to me is what makes something intelligent. And I think we're still working on that. And so it's getting better, but we can recall information really fast, which, again, for most of history, that wasn't considered intelligence. So there is a level of intelligence there. But as we found recently, it's really more how you can apply that knowledge than it is about whether or not you can recall it.
As an investor, if I'm looking into a company that has some element of AI built into it, because every startup right now is an AI company because that's the nature of the game, right? So
mine
how
included.
But I mean, to that point, you can speak pretty intelligently to all. I say pretty incredibly intelligently to all this stuff because you know it inside and out, and you're genuinely using it. Not every company is genuinely using this in its true sense. They put a mask up where it's just they throw something in a GPT, right, and have some other engine behind it. But how can somebody evaluate a tech stack to see its real value as far as how genuinely it is pursuing a technological advance, or at least creating a stack that is something more advanced than what other people are already using?
Yeah. So if they're just putting up a chat interface around something, then it's really not, they're not using AI hardly at all. That's just kind of out of the box functionality these days. Where things really get interesting is, I'm going to get all geeky. So if I go too geeky, edit me out.
No, geek away. This is great.
So there's really kind of like 2 or 3 main areas where I see AI really impacting a piece of software. The first is, so inside of your chat tools, when you're having a conversation with them, when you program from the back end, you can do through the API, through the application programming interface, and you interact with that. Not only can you pass in information around prompts and how you want it to, in the way that you want it to interact with your system through the system prompt and the messages you send back and forth, you can also tell it that it has access to a set of tools. And so these tools can be any number of things. You might have heard them referred to as MCPs recently. That seems to be kind of catching on in the industry. That's a model context protocol. Excuse me. But these tools basically allow you to interact with third-party systems on behalf of the AI. So the AI can now interact with the system as though it was you. So you can pass in these tools so that not only is it going to use the AI to help make a decision, but it also can then go out to a tool and do additional information on your behalf. So say, for example, you could say something like, every time I ask you about a certain customer, I want to give you the tool to my CRM, and I want you to go look up the last 3 messages from the CRM and use that in your context back so that I know what they're talking about. So now when I get something from a customer, it goes, oh, by the way, Matt talked to them 3 days ago, and here's what Matt said as well. You should know that. So those tools allow us to go beyond just the scope of what is going on inside of the AI and actually let the AI be informed by other external systems. Did I make sense at all there? So,
if you were putting it into simple terms, like 3rd grade terms, how would you put that?
AI has a tool belt that it can use when a complicated problem comes up.
And that's how you differentiate.
Yeah. So when you start seeing AI interacting with other systems on your behalf, that's when they're actually starting to understand how it works together. When it's just answering your questions, that's nothing fancy.
Understood.
But if it's actually saying, oh, the tool that we've built basically allows you to write a standard operating procedure in plain text English. It then uses AI to manage and run it on your behalf. And then you can give it tools like, let's say, Stripe or your CRM, and it will actually, so then when you're doing your job and you're typing something in, it'll go, hey, do you want me to go check when the last time they paid this invoice is? Yes, please. And it goes out to Stripe, searches Stripe's invoices for this customer, pulls back the customer invoices and says, just so you know, this is the last time the invoice got paid. It's like that is a whole other level of, and that's actually starting to really understand how the AI is communicating and how it can be used to do work on your behalf.
And it's like a proactive learning, right? Where it's kind of anticipating what's going to happen because of what has happened.
Yeah, it does. It can do that, but it really, more generally, it's just you've given AI access to a bunch of things that it can do on your behalf.
So it's recognizing the opportunity based on what you've given it.
Yeah.
Understood.
So you're going through a conversation and it goes, "Oh, you need to know the last invoice date? Well, I have a way to get that for you. Do you want me to get it for you? Yes, please." Comes back, "Here's the last invoice date." You're like, "Oh, well, thanks. I didn't have to do it now."
So to that point, we're talking about future and what's going on, but what do you see as the future of technology in general? AI is obviously the buzzword of the day, but what do you see as the future of technology and where we may be heading? What should we be paying attention to at least?
Thing that I saw recently was Joni Ives, who was a part of Apple and helped design a lot of the interface around how Apple's Macintosh and everything worked, the iPhone. Recently just started a new business with Sam Altman. We should pay attention. So,
Why is that? Is it because of the players involved? Because we have to worry about the people behind the machines too, not just the machines.
yes.
I mean, obviously we've seen enough movies to know we need to worry about the machines, but that's a different story. But we need to worry
Yes.
about the people. Are you saying that we need to pay attention because Johnny Ives and Sam Altman are involved with this, or is it what they've actually created that you're looking at?
Because of their history and the way that they create things, I think they're going to revolutionize the way you interact with your computing systems.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think if I'm guessing, which is a total speculative guess here, I'm guessing we're going to end up in some form of audio-driven interface because it's natural to us and it's way faster.
Yeah.
The computer as it stands right now is actually really cumbersome. And like moving a mouse around is like, how frustrating is that? And having to tab through your keyboard and type, like, I don't know about you, but I talk a whole lot faster than I type. And so there's something that's going to happen there because of artificial intelligence and its ability to understand context and language patterns that I think you're going to see a completely redefined and rebuilt,
Like user interface.
reimagined computer.
Not quite bridging all the way to Neuralink or something like that, where I'm having something implanted, right?
Yeah, probably not there, but it wouldn't surprise me if we had like Star Trek, like, hey computer, remind me tomorrow to do X,
We've
Y,
already
Z.
done this,
Hey,
right? So we got the watch. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, hey computer, send an email, make sure X, Y, and Z is taken care of. Like that. It would not surprise me to see that kind of stuff come along
Isn't that
real
funny
quickly.
to think about? Just to think that we are legitimately in the era where the Star Trek pin is not just a legitimate option. It's probably out there already in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not as advanced, but not far.
Yeah. No, it's probably not. And so we're going to see a big shift happen, I think, because of the people involved in that have formed a company that basically have said they want to rethink the way that the computer works. So.
Well, maybe we need to revisit some of our 80s movies, our 80s fan hits, those kind of things,
Yes.
and see what were people really excited about then that was nowhere near reality that maybe today,
Yes.
the hoverboard, that's what we're waiting on, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, what would you recommend for somebody, a layperson who wants to stay up to date on all these things, to not get too far behind, because it's really easy to get far behind as quickly as everything's moving right now. What do you recommend?
You have to use it. The thing about this technology is it's going to get smarter on its own the more they're using it, and by just engaging it, the new stuff's going to get released into the environments themselves. So you don't have to worry about, are you on the right version, Gemini or Claude or Chat. Like, I'm not as worried about that. If you're in one of them and you're engaging it regularly, and by engaging, I mean actually use it as a thought partner. Actually use it, I think it was Jeff Woods who described it that way. Use it as a thought partner, where you basically don't just engage it in a, hey, write me an email, but you say something along the lines of, hey, I want you to act like a really skeptical board member, and here's the PowerPoint slides that I'm going to present to them tomorrow, and I want you to rip them to shreds and ask me a million questions about what I haven't thought about here. Like really engage it at that level. Because if you keep doing that over and over again, they're going to keep adding technology and it's going to get smarter and smarter, and you will be far ahead of where most people are. Because it will actually be helping you think critically about how you can interact with others and interact with your business. So
see, that's it. I think that the most valuable skill that people are going to have in the coming years is the ability to critical thinking.
yes.
It's we're losing that so quickly because everything's at our fingertips, and to be able to perceive what's real and what's not, I just think that is the next major skill that everybody needs to be focused on.
I agree. And ironically, the technology is actually set up to help accelerate you doing that.
Oh, fascinating. I heard one person the other day say something about how it's the end of consultants. AI is the end of consulting as we know it today.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and so the technology is set up to help you evaluate your criteria. And so you can say, hey, I'm struggling with 2 ideas. Help me critically think through the way to make this more effective. And it will. And it will actually help you think of things you never would have thought of.
Yes.
One of my favorite things to do is to say, play the devil's advocate on this. Here's what I'm thinking. And it will plunk holes in me all day, in that thought all day long. You know how powerful that is? To be able to get out of my own head,
yes,
and have something criticize me that I know is unemotional. Like if my wife does it, that's a different thing, right?
That's right.
Like,
better pay close attention.
That's different. But or even if a business partner, if I come in and I'm like, this is what I'm thinking, and my business partner is like, oh, you haven't thought about this. This is like, that's personal. If AI does it, oh, that's not personal. That's just good thinking.
That's right. That's right.
And so all of a sudden I now have the ability to not only come up with an idea on my own, but then challenge it, refine it. By the time I come to you, I've actually had a couple of rounds.
Fascinating.
Where I've refined it. So by the time we're having a conversation, I'm actually kind of informed and I'm thinking more critically about my outcome.
Yeah. Well, Jason, this is awesome. I love your perspective. I can keep going, but I think it's probably a good time to end this right now. But is there anything that you would like to share, kind of round us out, close us out here?
Again, just use it. This technology is powerful, and so just engage it. Figure out how to get involved. Get your team using it, because it will have a massive impact on the way your business operates.
All right. Is there anything we should fear before we go?
I would fear being behind, which I think there's something there. I would also fear any private information being put on it. I would still not do that.
All right.
So,
all right. Yeah. Well, perfect. So we will avoid putting private information on there, and we will continue to use it. That sounds great. Well, Jason, thank you so much for your time today and all that you're doing at Robosource. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of The Alternative Investor. If you found this valuable, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. This show is brought to you by Honey Hive Capital Partners. Visit us at honeyhivepartners.com to continue your alternative investment journey. This recording represents the views and opinions of its guests and does not reflect the views and opinions of Honey Hive Capital Partners, LLC. Nothing in this recording, nor any communications from it, should be treated as constituting financial, investment, legal, tax, or other advice of any kind, or as a recommendation to buy or sell an interest with respect to any investment. We look forward to you joining us next time.